We're introduced to a couple of shady characters in Parshas Chayei Sarah. Among them, we have Ephron. And, well, he's at least shady according to the way we've been taught, that he tried to jip Abraham by overcharging him for the burial plot for Sarah Imenu. And there's some extreme midrashim that go as far as to say that even during the negotiations, Ephron was pocketing Abraham's money. Now, this is what you get from Chazal, that he was a sleazy guy who would say a lot, but not even do anything, not barely even a little. But if you look at the story in the Chumash, it's not so clear that Ephron was a bad guy at all. In fact, if you look at the plain text, Ephron seems like a really great guy. In fact, not only does he seem to be pretty genuine, but he makes a very nice, generous offer to Avram. He says that I'm willing to give you everything for free. We don't even have him saying, Abraham, it's a good deal. We have him saying, Abraham, it's yours. The impression we get of Ephron is that he's a really nice guy who wants to really make things work out for Abraham. And it makes you wonder, maybe, if it's more, if anything more than just Mussar, where did Chazal get this from? That Ephron was trying to pull the wool over Abraham's eyes. Ephron, from the view of the reader looking at the Chumash, Ephron seems like a real Baal Chesed. And if you look at the Chumash, it could be, although it's not so obvious that Ephron was a bad guy, and maybe, it'll never be obvious, one theme that's important to know for Torah and life in general is that the villain never truly looks like the devil. He never has the evil mustache or the evil eyebrows. That's just not how they appear. The real villains don't ever admit to being a villain. And, just look at politics. So, that said, let's look at the presentation a little bit. There are some irregularities, there are some oddities in the text. For example, one thing that we find throughout Avram's negotiation with the Bnei Ches is the fact that they don't just speak, but they speak to him. And what do I mean they speak to him? The pasuk says, Vayanu Bnei Ches Avram lemor lo, saying to him. They say dafka to him. What does lemor lo? Usually it just says lemor. What's lemor lo? You find this multiple times in their encounters. And it's very similarly by Ephron. Vayan Ephron es Avraham lemor lo. Why are they saying dafka to him? It almost seems like we're focusing on the presentation here. They're trying to talk to Avraham, to grab Avraham. And not only that, we find another lashon that's thrown out a lot. As they talk to each other, they keep on saying the lashon of "Hear me out, Shma Enu, hear us out, Adoni Nasi Elokim Ata B'Socheinu. Listen, hear us out, my master, Prince of God, you are in our midst." And then we find again. And Avram actually tries to counter. Avram says, Shma Uni, but if you'll listen to me, I want to speak to Ephron. And then Ephron, when he finally speaks up, Ephron says, Shma Eni, listen to me, the field is yours. And then Avram retorts, Shma Eni, but listen to me, I want to give you money for it. And so again, what's all of this, hear me out, hear me out, hear me out? It almost sounds like he's trying to say, believe me. Take it from me. That's the lashon here. It's really fascinating because by the end of the story, Ephron says to Avram, Adoni Shma'ini Eretz Arba Meos Kesef Beini Uveincha Mahi. My master, listen to me. A land of 400 silver shekels worth between me and you. Come on, what is it? And then the pasuk after says, Vayishma Avraham el Ephron, and Avraham listens to Ephron. And then what? It says he listens to Ephron. Vayishkol Avraham leFron hakesef asher diber be'ozni bnei Ches. Says that Avram listened to Ephron, and then Avram weighed out the money for Ephron, that which he had spoken in the earshot of the bnei Ches. It's very interesting that the pasuk says Avraham hears Ephron and then gives him the money. We would have argued that if Avram was listening to and obeying Ephron, he would have taken the land for free. But the Chumash says that Avraham listened to Ephron. My brother, Menachem Mendel Shlomo Eisenberg, he suggested that Avraham was listening to the actual voice of Ephron, in the heart of Ephron, what Ephron really meant. Avraham was pretty good with social cues, and he understood what Ephron wanted. Ephron wanted the money. And even if, it's not so clear that Ephron was a bad guy from the story, what we see is that Ephron and Avraham are going back and forth, each one trying to give to the other. Avraham says, I want to give you the money. Ephron says, I want to give you the land. But Avraham sees that there might be some funny business here, and therefore I want to get the land for everything it's worth. And Ephron, how far was he willing to go? It seemed that he was pushing pretty far, pretty hard. But at a certain point, he couldn't help but drop the price tag in front of Avraham. Now, you might say that this is for more than one reason. You could say this was Ephron's way of saying, come on, I'm showing you that this is an amazing deal that I'm giving you. By letting him know exactly what it was worth. It was his way of saying, it's a great deal, come on. It might also be a way of saying, or a way of trying to get Avraham to feel indebted to Ephron for this wonderful offer. Maybe. But that's not how true chesed is done. True chesed is done where we all know, we've all practiced this. You hide the price tag, you rip it off, make sure no one sees it. Ephron absolutely couldn't help it, even if he wanted to give off a certain impression. But we learn here that talk is cheap. We know that Avraham was someone who he would say a little and he would do a lot. And yet we find later in our Parsha, the other sketchy character, the other shady character is Lavan, who says a lot of really nice words, but those words could not measure up to the actions of his sister, Rivka, who didn't have all that much to say, but boy was she very active, proactive in terms of running back and forth to feed the camels, very much like Avram Avinu, who runs back and forth to serve his guests, tongues from cattle and not just bread and water as he had promised earlier. There's one thing that we take away from Parshas Chayei Sarah, among many different lessons, is that chesed speaks much louder than words.